Hello, welcome to Beta Feminist Podcast, the podcast where we talk about feminist issues from the perspective of an African woman living in Africa. I am your resident Beta Feminist host, Ijoma. I think since this is a podcast dedicated to feminism, it would be right to kick off with an episode explaining what feminism is. When you decide to take on a topic like this, you have to consider the fact that there are going to be listeners who have little or no idea about what feminism is and what it entails. And as such, the best place to start is explaining feminism and its significance. So let's consider this Feminism 101. Feminism is a movement that pushes for equality of both sexes in all aspects of public and private life. It is about creating an egalitarian society where women are free to make their own choices, to live how they want, despite what anybody thinks or what the society thinks. Feminism started as a movement aimed at removing the legal and social restrictions on females. The perceived freedom, I say freedom in quotes, that women have now wasn't always there. Women were once treated like slaves in the society. You know, there was a time women couldn't work, or vote, or live alone, or travel alone, or do some certain things that they can do today. Women ultimately existed to just live, marry, have kids, and die. It was so bad that notable female writers used male pen names to publish their books because they knew using female names would mean their books wouldn't be taken seriously. Women weren't allowed to have a say in what happened in the society. They were just there to take care of the home, have sex with their husbands, push out kids, and that was it. Then the suffragette movement started. Women started demanding that those restrictions be taken away. They started demanding for the right to vote, for the right to be what they wanted to be, for the right to be accepted in public places. There were so many places women couldn't go to without having a male companion. They started asking to be accepted into clubs, into stadiums. Women couldn't literally go to stadiums. In 1913, women weren't allowed to enter stadiums, to participate in sporting events, or even watch sporting events. Suffragettes had a movement and had a protest and asked a British official in 1913 why the cricket pavilion in Tunbridge Wells didn't allow women. And he gave a snide remark about them allowing women in just to make them tea. And the suffragettes got so angry they burned down the pavilion. From there were lots of protests. Women were protesting so many things that didn't even make sense today. There are so many rights that we take for granted today that we have because early feminists or suffragettes took it upon themselves to protest. They took it upon themselves to be radical. They weren't protesting nicely. And this is the thing, when feminists protest online, we are told we're being too bitter, we're being too harsh, be nicer. But the thing is, the feminists that started this movement knew that you don't beg them for your rights. You take it, you protest, you leave a dent. And that is what these women did. They burnt their bras all around. They were very radical. And that is how women were allowed to vote. That is how women were allowed to actually enter stadiums, to view sports. We've not even talked about participating. We're just talking about viewing. I'm sure a lot of us must have heard about the Salem witch hunt. Women were literally killed because they were suspected of being witches. If you interrupt a man at a gathering, if you say something they consider too bold of a woman to say, you were automatically branded a witch. And these women were burnt at stakes. You speak out too loudly, you are deemed too intelligent for a woman because, women are supposed to be Dundies. So if you're deemed too intelligent for a woman, you were burnt at a stake. Actually, some of the women that were burnt during the Salem witch hunt, some of them said no to men affection. You ask a woman out, the woman says no, and wow, she's a witch, how dare she? These are the things that ticked women off to the extent that they now had to protest. That was how the early suffragettes or feminists were born. The fight for equality is not something that only happened in Western countries. It didn't just happen in the UK and the US. It also happened back here. A lot of us know about the Aba Women Riot. It's too bad that Nigeria scrapped history out of our curriculum. We just know these things. We weren't taught these things. You know these things by reading, or maybe your grandmother told you, or somebody in the family told you. The Aba Women riot, where women protested because of these same issues, because they were not allowed to be, because they were treated like slaves. Women have been demanding for their rights from time immemorial. We live in a world that is by default a patriarchal world. We live in a world that is lopsided and is in favor of men. And all over the world, women have been protesting. They've been asking for equal rights. They've been asking to be treated or be given the same respect that men have without having to earn it. Men don't earn respect. A man is respected automatically because he is a man. Women have to strive to get respect. They have to strive to prove that they are worthy of being respected. The same respect that men get just by being men. So for a long time, women have been protesting, have been burning bras, have been burning pavilions, have been walking naked just for equal rights. So when people say feminism is a foreign concept, it is not true. For a long time, women have been protesting this inequality that we've been experiencing. The difference is it is now more subtle, because a lot of women are satisfied with having the barest minimum. They are satisfied with, we can now drive, we can now wear trousers, we can now do this. Well, let's just take what we have and run with it. While there are some women that want everything, they want the whole thing on a platter of gold. And this is where feminists come in. They want the whole respect that men have without having to work hard for it. Some women are satisfied with, since I can drive, since I can buy a car, I'm okay with it. While some say, no, I want every respect that men get. I want to be able to live my life the way I want. I want to be able to have the same career, the same respect, the same opportunities. I don't just want to be okay with the fact that I can drive, or I can buy a car, or I can rent a house, or if I work so hard and make so much money, men can start to respect me. We see what is happening in Saudi Arabia, and that goes to show you that this feminist movement, or this fight for equality, is not something that should be taken for granted. Women are literally getting killed because they do not cover their heads, they do not wear hijab. We see women getting jailed because they drive a car. These are things we take for granted. Oppression is in different states and forms. There was a story that broke out years ago, or months ago actually, about a Saudi Arabian woman that was flogged, even though she wore a hijab, but because they thought her eyes were too seductive. These are women who live in a high level of oppression. There was a picture, a meme that went viral some time ago, and it was a meeting on women affairs held in Saudi Arabia. And not one woman was present. The people holding the meeting or the conference for women affairs and gender whatever, all were men. And that is how it is. Women can't vote there, they can't drive, they can't walk around without a male partner. In fact, their fathers and brothers kill them for doing things, for stepping out of line. It's called honor killing. If you do something they think brings shame to the family, they kill you. Your own father or your own brother or your own husband will kill you for traveling without a male companion. Not for doing anything radical, not for apostasy, not for any big thing, just for little things like not wearing your hijab, little things like trying to get a job. These are the things they term radical and would actually lead to your death. They say, you've brought shame to our family, and they do that. Now, this is a kind of oppression women faced centuries ago that led to suffragettes coming in and fighting for this equality, that we have this little that we actually enjoy. In Nigeria, we might not have the same level of oppression as Saudi Arabian women, but that doesn't mean we are home free. Yes, we can wear trousers and drive and own properties and travel places without being accompanied by men, but we still have a society that thrives on misogyny and is built on patriarchy. Women do not occupy positions of power simply because they are women. According to UN statistics, the national average of women's political participation in Nigeria has remained 6.7%, and it is far below the global range. Let me start from House of Rep. In the House of Rep, we have about 360 members. Out of that, only 18 are women. Let me say that again. Out of 360 members, only 18 are women. Out of the 29 ministerial positions we have in Nigeria, only 3 are women. Out of the 36 states we have in Nigeria, 0 female governors. Nigeria ranks 149th out of 155 countries on political empowerment. That is to say, out of 155 countries, when it comes to political empowerment of women, we are 149. In sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria ranks 32nd out of 35 sub-Saharan African countries. We rank 32nd out of 35 sub-Saharan African countries when it comes to political empowerment of women. And this is a country with 200 million people. So you can say we are not as disenfranchised as the women in Saudi Arabia, and that would be true, but we do not have it good at all. Women in all parts of the world and almost all parts of Africa have it way better than we do. The fact that you can buy a car, or you can travel unaccompanied, or you can buy a house does not mean that you have a life that is equal to a man's in Nigeria. It does not mean that you have attained equality in any way, shape, or form. It does not mean that the fight for equality does not concern you. Do you still think women have it good here? The thing about this is, the lower the number of women in positions of power, the lower their ability to make a change in favor of women. When I hear people say, we don't need feminists, we have it all good, we don't need feminism, let's start with our female lawmakers. What are they doing to better our lives? They cannot do anything to better your lives when there are just 2 or 3 up there. Some years ago, the gender equality bill was sponsored by a female lawmaker. It was thrown out because no one would back it. Remember, the majority of the people in power, in positions of power, are men. Even if it's called to a vote, which most times it is called to a vote, 9 or 10 people opposing 360 people will not work. Women brought in a bill in favor of gender equality and it was laughed out of the Senate. Women brought in a bill to recognize spousal rape or marital rape, and it was laughed out of the Senate. No man would touch it. Now, if we had an equal number of female lawmakers, then we would be assured that those female lawmakers would represent us. But because we have just 3 or 4, when the men have over 300, the men would represent their own. They would fight for what they want. And that is why we have nothing. We always end up with the shorter end of the stick. That is why such oppressive laws against women are still in place. I can remember years ago when they brought in a bill to end child marriage. Men, who are the majority, refused to have it thrown out. They defended child marriage. They said it was a part of their heritage. A certain lawmaker, a certain senator in Zamfara, who married a 9-year-old. He was really abrasive about it. And obviously, why wouldn't he be abrasive about it and reject the bill and shout and support child marriage when he is a benefactor of child marriage? He married a 9-year-old and he is a lawmaker in Nigeria. So obviously, he would not back a bill that seeks to take away that privilege. The victims of child marriage, as we all know, we call it child marriage, but the actual victims of child marriage are women, are girls. No woman anywhere is marrying a 9-year-old boy. No woman anywhere is marrying a 6-year-old boy. It's girls that are getting married off to 60-something-year-old men. It is girls that are getting married off in the north, in the east, everywhere, to men old enough to be their great-grandfathers. And there is nothing we can do because women don't have access and opportunities to the places where they can effect a change. You don't expect your oppressors to make that change for you. You don't expect the people killing you to be the ones to save you. If the civil rights movement in America, if they did not have a Martin Luther King, there was never going to be a time a white guy would come up and lead them. It was bound to be a black person. And here we don't have it. We don't have a voice of reason or voices of reason because women are not allowed access. They just give us what we call affirmative action. They'll just carry 1 or 2 women there as figureheads and place. Like I said, out of 360 members of House of Rep, only 18 are women. That doesn't even begin to cut. That's less than 4%. And that 4%, they know it cannot make any change. So when you think we have it good, we actually don't. There are lots of oppressive laws against women in Nigeria, against us, lots of laws that favor men and disfavor women. And the reason these laws exist are because women are not allowed access. Women are not allowed to rule. We do not get the opportunity as men. This is not just in the political stratosphere. This is not just in the higher echelons of politics. It persists everywhere. I remember in my university, the role of the course rep was reserved for men, while the role of the assistant course rep was automatically a female position. It doesn't matter if your votes outnumber the guy you're up against, you would still be an assistant. Likewise, during my NYSC days, the role of the CDS president was automatically reserved for a guy. The vice president role was reserved for women. And like that, it persists. It starts from a young age. Kids learn from their nursery school to their primary school to their secondary school to the university, NYSC, that men are leaders and women are substitutes. There are actually departments where both the positions for the course rep and the assistant course rep were just left to men. Women don't have a say. In primary schools, unless you send your child to an egalitarian school, like my parents sent me to an egalitarian private school where leadership was based on academic excellence. It wasn't based on gender. So any term I came first, I had the first position, I was guaranteed the position of the class monitor. But that was because I was in that school. My friends in public schools, in other schools, that the way it worked was the man gets the position of the class monitor. The woman or the girl gets the position of the assistant or deputy class monitor. That is how it worked. And when this subsists, you're teaching not just the class monitors, but you're teaching the entire children in that school that leadership is just for boys, that girls know nothing about leadership. They see this thing from their nursery schools to their primary schools to their secondary schools to their universities to even when they serve, and that is indoctrinated into them. This is why feminism is important, because it is feminism that will make you see that leadership qualities don't come with a penis. It is not something that is automatically imbibed in men. It's not something that boys come with. What feminism is saying is that men shouldn't have a role reserved for them just because they are men. Women should be given the same opportunity to have those same responsibilities as men. Let both men and women contest and let the more qualified person, irrespective of their gender, win. Now, this is not just about politics or leadership. It's about everything from sex to chores to even careers. Men have the upper hand. Women don't. There are still families till today that send their sons to school and send their daughters to learn a trade, to families to be maids, or just marry them off. What feminism is saying is give your daughter the same opportunity to have an education just the way you're giving to your son. And before you say, oh, maybe they are doing it because they don't have the funds, that's not necessarily true. There are so many schools that offer free education. The boys and the girls get free education. They don't have to pay for anything. Yet the families would rather send the boys to school and let the girls go and learn a trade. We have a long way to go. And this is why feminism is important. Even though you think, the people that maybe need this feminism are those in Saudi Arabia. Everybody needs feminism. You living in Nigeria, living in Africa, you need it. You need to enjoy the same level of freedom that women living in the US, in UK, in Sweden, in European countries enjoy. Women here claim they don't need feminism for anything, that they are okay the way they are. But when they travel to places like the UK or the US, where there is a substantial level of egalitarianism, more than what we have here, they suddenly start enjoying it. They wear clothes, they wear short gowns, they wear bikinis, things they know that they cannot comfortably wear here without being stripped naked. That same level of freedom you enjoy when you travel out is the same level of freedom we want here in Nigeria. The way you go out of Nigeria and you're excited that Kamala Harris is a vice president, that is what we want here. The way you go out of Nigeria and you're excited that the UK Prime Minister is a woman, that is what we want here. The way you go out there and you can walk at night and go back to your house, that is what we want here. Where your gender is not a limiting factor. Let your intelligence speak for you. Let your work ethics speak for you, not your ownership of a vagina. So this episode is just trying to let you understand what feminism is, what we're fighting for, what this whole movement is about. What birthed this movement? It's not something that we just found today. Feminism is not something we just discovered and we're now ranting and raving. Your grandmothers were feminists. You probably don't know, but your great-grandmothers were feminists. They marched in Aba, or maybe they protested in Oyo, but they were feminists. They understood the kind of life they wanted, and they know the kind of life they wanted for their female great-grandchildren. And that is why we'll keep fighting and we'll pass the torch. What feminism is basically saying is that men and women are equal. That is it. And that because we are equal, we deserve the same rights as men. We deserve the same freedom, the same opportunities, the same respect that men have. Some people intentionally misconstrue feminism to mean stripping away respect from men or stripping away opportunities from men. Oh, you want to replace patriarchy with matriarchy. That's not what we're going for. We're not trying to take away an oppression to replace it with a brand new oppression. When Black Americans, I keep on using it because it's the closest similarity we have, but when Black Americans were protesting and still are protesting for equal treatment, for an end to racism, they're not trying to say, oh, let it now be that Blacks are now superior so we can oppress the whites. No, they just want equal treatment. So when women protest and ask for feminism or ask for equal opportunities, they're not asking to replace patriarchy or male supremacy with female supremacy or matriarchy. That's not what we're going for. Feminism is not about taking rights, opportunities, and respect away from men. No, it is about giving women the same rights, opportunities, and respect that men have. It is not going to take away anything from you as a man. It is just going to give the woman the same things you enjoy. There is a picture that trended some time ago where people were trying to depict equity and equality, and they put it in, it was a very stupid depiction of the differences between equity and equality, and it was intentional. But at the end of the day, that is not what feminism is about. Feminism is not saying, okay, in a house of rep where there are 360 members, women should be 350 while men should be 10. No, it's saying that if we have 360 slots, men should have 180, women should have 180. 350 members shouldn't be men just because men have penises, just because men have more power, just because men are thought to be better leaders. It should be thrown open. In an ideal world, that is how it's supposed to be. It should be equal. It should be 50-50. And that is what feminism is all about. It's not about to take away from men. It's just to give women the same rights, the same privileges, and the same access and respect and opportunities that men enjoy for free. We don't have to earn it. We don't have to work twice as hard to get it. We just want the same thing this other group has. And that is it. I think that is a little summary of what feminism is all about. Any other person that has a different idea of what feminism is has a misunderstanding of what the movement is all about. If you understand feminism as a woman, you would want it for yourself. You would want it for your kids. You would want your kids to grow up in a world where they have the same rights as any other child there. If you as a man understand what feminism is about, you will embrace it, not just for yourself, but also for your future children, for the people in front of you, for your generation. You would want them to have the same access and liberty that men enjoy. And that's about it. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Bitter Feminist Podcast. Follow us at Bitter Feminist Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. You can drop your contributions, questions, or even hot takes on any of our social media platforms. I'm still your host, Ijoma. See you on our next episode. Bye.